We know at the same exact time there's been a lot of setbacks for With Love, Meghan Season 2, quote-unquote.
I mean, it's just such a mess. I mean, it's a mess from the beginning to the end.
Bucket. With Love, Meghan, which is what this abomination is called, is so bad. Even Stevie Wonder and Ray Charles might think they got a sweet deal.
Meghan Markle's big Netflix comeback just exploded. What was supposed to be her polished personal project, the lifestyle series With Love, Meghan, has spiraled into a full-blown scandal. Netflix isn't just disappointed, they're investigating her for plagiarism, quietly but seriously. And this isn't some tabloid noise. We're talking internal audits, emergency board meetings, and whispers that as much as 40% of the show was lifted from other people's work. Think viral YouTube shows, celebrity cooking segments, even obscure reality TV bits.
But there's a lot of other aspects going into this that's putting, of course, the Netflix executives, the producers, in pretty much a very troublesome situation.
I With Love, Meghan is so pointless, it might be the Sussex's last TV show.
Now, Meghan's empire is crumbling. She's pushing for a third season, while Netflix scrambles to reshoot nearly half the content, at a cost of up to $50 million. Fans feel duped, executives feel betrayed, and Meghan, she's calling it bias. But this time, even her most loyal supporters are falling silent. So how did it go from a royal rebrand to a streaming catastrophe? Let's pull back the curtain.
However, this is where it really begins to get very crucial for Meghan Markle's situation, because now she's under investigation in a very serious way when it comes to With Love, Meghan Season 2, when it comes to how the Netflix executives are now watching over everything about this show.
Eggs out of a free-range chicken's backside with her bare hands before presumably sprinkling some flower petals on them to feed to her kids who've had a hard day of being looked after by the nanny in their other mansion.
The first red flag wasn't public. It came from inside the building. Netflix editors started comparing rough cuts from With Love, Meghan's second season, to old footage they'd seen before, and not from this show. One clip in particular, a cozy girls' brunch scene with Meghan and a guest making avocado toast, looked eerily similar to a segment from a 2014 cooking show hosted by Pamela Anderson. Not just similar, identical. The script, the set, the transitions, it was like a copy-paste job. At first, producers thought it was a coincidence, maybe even a creative homage. But then, the hits kept coming. A camera angle here, a monologue there, entire episode structures that mirrored old Rachel Ray formats, and even web-based shows from small creators. Internally, they launched a quiet content audit. What they found made executives sick. As much as 40% of the show appeared to be directly inspired by, or worse, plagiarized from, other creators.
She recently got caught by multiple Netflix executives of not just copying Pamela Anderson's cooking show again, but also Rachel Ray's past cooking show, along with many other cooking shows.
Oh my gosh, Meghan Markle is insufferable. She's as popular as getting hardcore chafing during the first kilometre of a marathon.
That's when the board called an emergency meeting. The CEO, Greg Peters, greenlit a full-blown investigation into Meghan's show. And this wasn't a backroom slap on the wrist. It was official. Lawyers, marketing, content development, everyone got looped in. And from that point forward, With Love, Meghan stopped being a feel-good passion project. It became a liability. Once Netflix realized how deep the copying went, the numbers got terrifying. If 40% of the content had to be reshot, that meant tens of millions of dollars in production costs. Potentially up to $50 million by some internal estimates.
And producers are now calling for the board of directors to initiate a full-on investigation, and they actually agreed to do so for Meghan Markle over plagiarism of multiple hit TV shows.
And remember, this wasn't Stranger Things. This was supposed to be a low-budget, personality-driven lifestyle series. No explosions, no special effects, no action sequences, just Meghan, a few celebrity friends, a camera crew, and some Airbnbs made to look chic on camera. But now, entire segments had to be scrapped. Sets had to be rebuilt, guests had to be rebooked. New writers had to be hired under tight non-disclosure agreements to salvage what was left of the project.
Knows that Meghan Markle has eaten Jack in the Box and loves it.
It's so funny, too, that you keep saying Meghan Markle. You know I'm Sussex now.
Anybody who can cook can do that already. So to think that this will get her loads of people turning in for her ideas on cooking is nonsense.
Some executives suggested cutting the episodes in half to save money. Others floated the idea of transforming the whole second season into bonus content instead of a formal release. But the damage had already been done. Advertisers began pulling back, internal PR teams refused to defend the show publicly. Even Greg Peters himself was reportedly furious that this had slipped through quality control. According to leaks, he warned department heads that anyone associated with the greenlight would be held accountable. Meanwhile, Meghan kept quiet, at least publicly, but behind the scenes, she was already pushing back and pushing for a renewal. As the firestorm inside Netflix grew hotter, Meghan Markle switched into damage control mode, her way. According to insiders, she told allies that the accusations were another example of discrimination and insisted she was being held to an impossible standard. Sound familiar? It's the same play she used after the royal exit, after the Oprah interview backlash, and after the Spotify collapse. This time, though, the pattern was harder to ignore, especially when side-by-side comparisons of her show and other creators' work started going viral. One TikTok showed a cooking scene lifted almost frame for frame from a 2016 web series. Another compared her voiceover intro to a nearly identical intro from a reality show that aired a decade ago. The timing couldn't have been worse. While Meghan was pitching new spin-offs, yes, really, Netflix's legal team was reviewing NDAs and hunting down receipts. She floated ideas for a travel docuseries, a mental wellness brand, and even a behind-the-scenes diary-style vlog. But no one was listening. Her creative credibility was on life support, and her insistence that it was all a coincidence wasn't helping. Internally, some producers began pushing to remove Meghan's name from the show's credits if things got worse. As one exec allegedly put it, she wants the spotlight. She can have it, just not on our dime. This is where it really started unraveling. Meghan Markle, once the darling of Netflix's original content push, suddenly found herself isolated. The board that once championed her wasn't just quiet, they were avoiding her. According to insider leaks, two major producers who helped shape The Initial with Love, Meg and Pitch, are now distancing themselves. One reportedly requested that their name be removed entirely from re-released episodes. Why? Liability. If Netflix is ever forced to admit the show contains copyrighted material, anyone connected to production could be exposed to legal action. And in the ruthless world of studio politics, no one wants to be the fall guy. Meghan's once firm allies were now deleting emails, avoiding calls, and leaving her out of meetings. Even the marketing team has allegedly scrubbed future promotional material featuring her face. That's how far the fallout has gone. Some execs are now referring to Meghan as a discretion risk, code for a brand-damaging presence. Meanwhile, Greg Peters is reportedly crafting an exit plan. Not just for the show, but for Meghan's overall relationship with Netflix. It won't be loud, it won't be public, but it will be final. Meghan, of course, is still trying to hold the line, still pitching, still planning. But the silence from the top speaks louder than any official statement. On social media, the reaction has been explosive and deeply divided. Meghan Markle's most loyal fans are doubling down, calling the investigation a smear campaign. They argue that Meghan is being singled out, again, for daring to step into creative power as a woman of color. But the other half of the internet? They're done. Furious fans who once praised the show for its authenticity are now calling it a fraud. We paid for originality, one comment read, not reruns with a royal filter. Reddit threads have dissected episodes shot for shot. Twitter is ablaze with jokes, memes, and receipts. Even fan-run accounts that once supported Meghan have gone quiet. The betrayal feels personal for some. They defended her through the palace exit, the Oprah backlash, and the Spotify flop. But plagiarism? That's a hard sell, especially when streaming audiences are now more vocal than ever about creative ethics. Netflix is watching this closely. Viewer trust equals revenue, and right now, they're bleeding both. Executives know that if they stand by Meghan publicly, it might tank their other shows too. That's why they've gone radio silent. The fan war rages on, but the louder half, the angrier half, they're not buying what Meghan's selling anymore. If this investigation keeps snowballing, Netflix might not be Meghan's only problem. Behind the scenes, legal teams are reportedly preparing for worst-case scenarios. Copyright lawyers have been quietly flagging scenes that may have directly violated fair use. And if any of those creators decide to file suit, Meghan and possibly Netflix could be dragged into a public courtroom fight. The risk is real. Unlike parody or transformative content, lifestyle shows are tricky. If you recreate someone's show format, tone, or structure too closely, you're skating on legal ice, especially if you profit from it. Internally, Netflix's legal department has already warned executives that any public confirmation of creative overlap could open the floodgates. That's why there's been no formal statement, no social media response, just silence. Legal silence. And here's the twist. Some of the creators whose content was allegedly lifted are already gaining traction. A few have gone public, calling out the similarities and hinting at legal action. If even one case goes to court, Netflix will have to distance themselves even further from Meghan. or risk getting dragged into a legal disaster that could cost them millions more. The board knows it, Meghan knows it, and now, so does the world. For Meghan, this wasn't just a show. It was a redemption arc, a way to prove that she could thrive without the royals, without the drama, without the press. But that illusion is shattered now. With Love, Meghan was supposed to be soft, empowering, and refined. Now it's chaotic, controversial, and toxic. Hollywood is watching. Studios that once courted Meghan are backing away. Creative agencies are quietly reassessing their partnerships. No one wants to gamble on a brand tied to plagiarism, financial loss, and internal mutiny. Meghan's reputation, once teetering on a knife's edge, is now slipping. Even her previous defenders in the press are taking a step back, waiting to see how this plays out. Because if Netflix confirms the investigation results, and if the numbers are as bad as insiders say, it might become industry standard to avoid working with her altogether. One studio exec reportedly said, off the record, she had one shot, and she used it to copy-paste. Harsh words, but in a city that runs on risk management, perception is everything. Meghan wanted to rewrite her story. Instead, she's becoming the cautionary tale other stars will be warned about. Here's the question everyone's asking. Will Netflix drop Meghan Markle for good? Right now, they haven't confirmed anything. But inside sources say the answer is already written. Netflix is waiting for the internal audit to wrap up before making any final moves. They don't want to get sued, they don't want headlines, they just want out, quietly. One exit strategy reportedly includes canceling season 3 without a formal announcement, then rebranding the remaining footage as archived content or specials with no mention of Meghan at all. Another rumored plan? Let the contract expire, then blacklist future pitches behind closed doors. Either way, it's clear Netflix is done playing nice. The board's faith is gone. The numbers are ugly. The press is circling. And Meghan's only lifeline is public sympathy, something even her fans are struggling to summon. As this story unravels, the fallout will stretch far beyond one show. It's already changed how studios view unscripted content, how contracts are written, and how creative freedom gets monitored. Meghan didn't just lose a show, she lost the trust of the biggest streamer in the world. And in the entertainment business, that's the kind of blow few recover from. This was supposed to be Meghan Markle's reintroduction, her reinvention, her redemption. Instead, it's become a slow-motion collapse, one boardroom leak, one viral comparison, one silent retreat at a time. The Netflix investigation may still be internal, but its consequences are already spilling into the public eye. A $50 million repair bill, a fan base in chaos, a studio distancing itself from a name it once praised. And Meghan, she's still moving like nothing happened, pitching new shows while the fire burns behind her. But even the strongest spin machine can't hide what's happening now. With Love, Meghan isn't just a scandal. It's a signal that in the age of receipts, and more receipts, nobody's untouchable. Not even royalty. Especially not royalty. What happens next could define the rest of Meghan's career. Will Netflix make the cut official? Will lawsuits follow? Or will this all quietly vanish beneath a wave of new headlines? One thing's for sure, this story isn't over, not even close. Drop a comment if you're ready for the full truth, because the next move, it might be the last one.